encircled by a ton of affection. And he should simply add discipline and he will be good. Unusual things in their home.
Also, young fellows have gone out shouting to move away from them in their mentorship.
Quiet plants. Bryshere Gray. Our occupation is once there was a wrongdoing happen. When a wrongdoing is claimed, we need to do a report on it. Regardless of whether someone needs to squeeze charges. Appears as though Bryshere Gray doesn't keep down with regards to insane and wild things he had encountered during his time among popular specialists in Hollywood. And keeping in mind that you might think this young fellow is a mobile difficulty in view of the extensive rundown of his violations, the entertainer likewise focuses fingers at some industry Goliaths. Furthermore, as he's idiom now, his lawful difficulties in vocation destruction started whenever he had met not really any other Will Smith, and turned into his awful personal triumph despite his desire to the contrary. So Bryshere, one more casualty of the set of experiences games. We should dive into the subtleties.
Presently Bryshere Gray is talking and clearly his disclosures might change a ton of things in the business as the domain star is expecting to uncover.
Regardless, Will Smith himself and his wild exercises with male specialists.
Better believe it, you ought to get it done in light of the fact that it might change what is happening.
You know, they don't need to do that.
As indicated by Bryshere, his thriving vocation took a terrible turn and everything went downhill when the youthful ability consented to be coached by Will.
And keeping in mind that a considerable lot of you might think it was an extraordinary chance for the youthful entertainer to get familiar with the kitchen of the acting, as a matter of fact, as Gray currently says, he engaged in an interlacing obscure and sickening exercises and, surprisingly, implied that the Oscar-winning entertainer was driving him to rest together to hoist Gray's vocation to another level. However, I needed to be a rapper. You know, that is not by any means the only thing I need to do. However, Hakeem, that is the thing he was well known at.
As Bryshere claims, toward the start of their companionship in 2015, he didn't anticipate that things should accept such a wild turn, and he readily acknowledged Smith's mentorship. As he said in one of his meetings on my promising excursion I got with Charlie McIntosh.
He began overseeing me and he's Will Smith's closest companion he acquainted us with. What's more, from here we've fostered an extraordinary relationship. He put me under the care of him and just offered me extraordinary guidance. Yet, this is where Bryshere fell into a snare, since much to his dismay that Will Smith's mentorship accompanies specific value the youthful specialists need to pay. What's more, it was Puma Wright who originally uncovered the sickening subtleties of this mentorship program that Will and his significant other, Jada, run in their home. I'm saying that in light of the specialists that I just addressed quite recently that got welcomed to a party at their home. As Panther said, Will Smith hosts been tossing secret gatherings for youthful and hopeful craftsmen starting from the earliest days of recorded history, and a couple of them really make it until the end. Besides, as it ended up, the entire marriage among Will and Jada is only a phony. What's more, they are remaining together for such a long time just to continue to do his wild exercises. As Bryshere claims, he became one of these casualties, and his life hasn't been the equivalent from that point forward. Rather than an extraordinary lift in his vocation, things just went more terrible. Also, Gray's undertaking with Smith simply prompted the entertainer's downturn. He was even determined to have bipolar turmoil. Furthermore, evidently it was the second when he understood that evil mentorship from Will Smith had been the entire justification behind that. Evidently, this was an enduring issue, and it left an immense effect on the brain of the youthful entertainer. So you're doing your thing on the set, then? I'm doing my thing, period. I'm in Miami, in Brazil. You know, be cautious, brother. Since the second when Bryshere understood that he was utilized and misled, he was unable to see Will Smith in a similar light. The underlying picture of a dark symbol had been demolished perpetually, and the realm star quit commending his guide in her groundbreaking relationship. Notwithstanding, at first Bryshere was so anxious to advance more from Will, and as he was saying toward the start of their relationship, he succeeded in music and acting and demonstrating early in life. I want to do that as well. Indeed, let me remind you all that Will Smith really succeeded in acting thanks to his very own mentorship kind when he tracked down a way to the place of one of the most persuasive makers within recent memory, Quincy Jones, and asked how he might get a job.
Come by myself at Quincy and his entertainers and craftsmen and big names and government officials like everyone at Quincy's home and change your life for eternity.
I was like, screw it then. Indeed. Presently, it seems like Will Smith needs to keep Quincy's practices of acquainting youthful entertainers with the Hollywood privileges.
Furthermore, as Bryshere says, it was an extraordinary second for him as he never felt so devastated and embarrassed in all his years. Many fans are currently saying that Bryshere ought to keep his mouth zipped in the event that he believes nothing more regrettable should happen to him. As one client composed, he ought to find another thing to do.
He could live longer. Hollywood is debilitated, insidious, and has asserted numerous entertainers. And so on. Also, another client added, Hollywood truly ruins these stars. Whatever is happening in the background must be genuinely detestable. This doesn't come as a stunner to me any longer. Presently, after Will acquainted his young protege with the evil side of becoming famous in the business, the realm star's profession went downhill with the speed of light.
It seems like the injury got from being an undesirable relationship with a lot more established man left its effect on the brain of Bryshere, and after that he became known not so much for his jobs but rather for his legitimate difficulties. He news in the capture of Bryshere Gray, one of the stars of the hit show Domain. This evening, we're seeing long stretches of new video from his July capture.
Indeed, the strain of Tinseltown isn't ideal for everybody.
Furthermore, as we probably are aware, even the most grounded may disrupt under the unimaginable guidelines that the business forces. What could we at any point say regarding a young fellow why should excited gain from his godlike object, yet as a matter of fact got tempted and compelled to enter a private issue with him? Clearly, it was the second when Bryshere's pink glasses have broken into pieces and he personally transformed into a criminal component, getting captured constant.
Nonetheless, dissimilar to Will Smith, Bryshere didn't have anybody to direct him in the realm of Hollywood violations.
Furthermore, since the realm star moved away from hurting impact of his tutor, he started experiencing an ever-increasing number of difficulties with the law, in the end winding up with various captures and destruction of his profession.
Presently, we saw you were secured. So you're not secured. You are out. You are free. No, I'm not secured. I'm free. I'm in a hot Atlanta. We turn the roads up. Also, we trust the titles. Folks, it seems as though this man is profoundly harmed by his experience with Will Smith.
Furthermore, obviously later he took it out on his own significant other. Whenever she called the police, she let officials know that her better half had abused her for a few hours inside their home, displaying noticeable injuries and guaranteeing he choked her to the mark of transitory obviousness. As per the police discharge, Gray's better half supposedly had various noticeable wounds on her body and furthermore expressed that she was choked at one point by Gray and briefly blacked out. Notwithstanding his multi-day prison stay, Gray needed to finish 3 years of probation with different circumstances.
He was requested to not drink any liquor for the span of his probation and to not have any contact